Alrighty, so today we are going to do one of the more anticipated moving forward series episode. Anytime when I talk about one of my team, obviously, you know it's going to be a good one, and that, of course, is the case when I talk about the San Jose Earthquakes in the moving forward series episode. And while I know the Quakes were one of the more improved team this season, when you look at the points total, they pretty much almost double the amount of points total they got from this season compared to the disastrous 2024 season. But you just kind of had a sense that this year feels like it was a year of missed opportunity for the Quakes, especially with the way how bad the Western Conference is when it comes to the playoff race, and the fact that, like Colorado, they were one of the teams that were definitely have a big chance in terms of making the playoffs. Albeit, they definitely need more help compared to the Colorado Rapids, and they almost got that help to do so. Have St. Louis actually got the win against RSL, they would have actually made it to the playoffs after getting the win against Austin FC, but unfortunately, it was not meant to be. And really, again, you look at some of the games that the Quakes had this season, I could definitely point out there's multiple games that I could say that this team probably could have picked up points that not only left on the table, but ones that are definitely crucial in terms of them potentially making the playoffs. And especially the fact that, the other frustrating thing about the Quakes this season is the fact that when it comes to not only defending has been bad, but the attack, as good as the attack is, and I'll definitely go over the number, but it just feels like it could have been a lot better, especially of how many times I have pulled my hair because of how bad the finishing has been for this team. Now, they finished with an 11-8-15 record and finished with 41 points. As I said, they were one of the top goal scoring team in the league, 60 goals scored this season. In fact, when you look at the Eastern Conference, there's only, I think, two teams or three teams in the Eastern Conference that made it to the playoffs that actually finished with 60 plus goal. Inter Miami, of course, the defending MLS Cup champion, finished with 80 plus goal, and most famously, they become the first team to finish the season with more than that, scoring more than 100 goals with 101. We saw Chicago score 68 goals this season, and then we saw Orlando City score 63 goals. Ironically, those two teams were the last two teams to make it in the Eastern Conference. So if there's one thing we can say, at least when it comes to the playoffs this year, just because you're one of the top goal scoring team doesn't mean you usually will be able to get into the playoffs. And a big reason, again, why this team didn't make it to the playoffs is the amount of goals that they conceded. 63 goals conceded this season. -3 is their goal differential. It's a little bit better compared to that disastrous season that they had in 2024, but still not what you want to do if you want to make it to the playoffs. Not a lot of playoff team would make it with that amount of goals that is conceded. And while the Quakes this season they did try to fix the back line and bring in some of Bruce guys, and also Bruce tried to trust some of the youngster to maybe fix the leaking back line that this team has been having for the past couple of years. It just did not work whatsoever, and there's definitely going to be question whether or not if they're going to try it again, or it is pretty clear that they need to do something I've been saying for a very long time with this team, and I've been kind of dying to say even during the summer transfer window, they need some new defender, and they absolutely need to fix the back line if they want to go anywhere next season as well. Now they finished 10th in the Western Conference. Of course, they were the first team out, and when you look at the standings. Now looking at the top goal scorer, we have a couple of guys that actually no longer on this team. Joseph Martinez is one of those guys, finished with 14 goals. And I think it was the right decision that they decided to move on from Joseph Martinez. I know when you look at the top goal scorer chart, you have the two-headed monster with Martinez and Arango scoring 27 of the 60 goals that is being scored. But it's pretty clear that as the season goes along, you can clearly see they just don't play well with each other. And I'm not surprised that is the case. When you have two guys that pretty much is a very similar style and likes to be goal hungry and get themselves in kind of similar position to score those goals, then you're gonna create some problem when both of those guys are on the pitch at the same time. So yeah, I had a feeling they were gonna let go one of them. There was a case that they were gonna let go both of them. I mean, Joseph Martinez, we knew he was gone. Chicho Arango, there was report that he was gonna go back to Liga MX, but the Quakes decided to keep him for another season. He finished with 13 goals, followed by Preston Judd with 7 goals, kind of an unsung hero in this Quakes team. And I would say kind of a cult hero too for this Quakes team as well. He has that this very Steven Lenhart kind of mentality in terms of the way that he played last season, and also the goal scoring that he did last season. Very Lenny kind of type of vibe that I see with Preston Judd. Then you have Bolarud, a guy that just kind of came out of nowhere to become a star for this team in the midfield with 5 goals, followed by Christian Espinoza with 4 goals. And we'll definitely get to talk about the Christian Espinoza dilemma a little bit later because this is one of the things that really clout this team in the future, and one thing that is kind of a bit unthinkable that the Quakes did this off season. Speaking of Christian Espinoza, he finished with 12 assists as the top assist leader. Unsurprising. I mean, he's been the top assist leader for this team for the last couple of years. Then you got Chicharongo with 7 assists, Dewan Jones with 6 assists, Bo LaRue with 4 assists, and Daniel Mooney finished with 3 assists. So it's kind of interesting that a defender finished as one of the top assist leader of this San Jose Earthquakes team. Best win of the season. I'm gonna go with the 6-1 win that they had against DC United. I was actually at this game, and it was kind of crazy to see how good they they looked. Now, granted, they were playing against a DC team that, yeah, this is a team that ended up winning the wooden spoon, and they didn't look good at all in that game as well. But the fact that the Quakes were just so lethal in front of goal, and the fact that I believe that was the game where didn't Jose Martinez score a hat trick in that one, if I'm not mistaken. He could have even scored 4 goals in that game. He was that good, and that the Quakes, they even though they scored 6 goals in that game, they could score 7, 8, or even 9 goals against DC United. That's how good they were. That was by far one of the best performances I've ever seen the Quakes. Not just in a game, but really in person as well. I've never seen this team score more than 4 goals in a game. So yeah, it was kind of crazy to see them score 6 that day. Worst loss of the season. And by the way, that 6-1 win that they had against DC, I believe that wasn't that game on Sunday Night Soccer, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, no, I think it was before that. It was a 2 p.m. game, but still, it's crazy the fact that they did that in that game, and also a little celebration in terms of the first game of MLS history. As usually is the case whenever the Quakes play against DC. It's always going to be around the first week of April because of that's when the first ever MLS game actually happened. But the worst loss of the season, there were definitely a couple that I can definitely say that were kind of just heart wrenching loss. But I have to go with the 3-1 loss at home against St. Louis. And what was so frustrating about that game is that they were the better team against St. Louis. And I would also say that this game kind of sums up the Quakes this season. I mean, this is a team that this season. What's so frustrating about this team is the fact that one, they have defensive issue. We saw it against St. Louis as well, but they have so many of these games where they look like the better team. There's so many games that they won the XG battle. In fact, this team for a long time were leading the league when it comes to XG, and despite the fact that they scored 6 goals this season, I think their XG was something like 70 or 80 goals. They were going to be right up there with the likes of Inter Miami in terms of the most goal scorer in his season that just this past season, and yet because of the lack of finishing, and they had a lot of chance in that one and unable to put it away. While St. Louis was definitely the more clinical side, and especially in a game where I say that was an absolute must win for the Quakes. Like with the way where they were in the playoff race, they had to win that game at home, especially with the murderous row to finish the season. They didn't do so, and that's when I kind of said that, yeah, turn out the lights with this team. I mean, this season is definitely over. Even though I know they definitely gave me some false hope. A couple of weeks later, I think a couple of weeks they won 1-0 against San Diego on the road. Just kind of a bit of a random win out there, a kind of incredible win. But yeah, that one really hurts when it comes to the playoff chances, and easily probably the worst loss in a game that was absolutely a must win for the Quakes if they wanted to make it to the playoffs. Now, when it comes to average attendance, 19,614, good for 22nd in the league. But I put an asterisk there because remember, when you look at the Quakes this season, they play 2 games. That is not at PayPal Park, as it is the case in previous season as well, and it's going to be the same case again this year as well, with the way that they're going to be playing at Stanford and Levi Stadium. The Stanford game, I think got like 40,000 plus fans, which is still pretty good for the most part, but again, I think when it comes to the Stanford game, you started to see it lost its luster over the year. I mean, the Stanford game, the Cali Classico used to be a big thing, and with the way that the season is going to be be shifting from a spring to fall season to a fall to spring season starting in 2027, and especially with the division alignment as what we've seen in the future, where the Quakes and the Galaxy is not going to be in the same division. I think this might be the last year we might see the Stanford game, and I think it's something that, as much as I love the Stanford game in the Cali Classico between the Quakes and the Galaxy, I think a lot of Quakes fans can agree the fact that, yeah, that novelty has really wore off, and especially the attendance kind of started to steadily decrease when it used to be pretty much a sell out every single year. Even when the Quakes were like among the worst team in the league, they were still selling out Stanford, and because of the fact that they're not doing it, big part is due to the fact that they're not winning at Stanford anymore. Yeah, I think this might be the final year. We might see the Quakes play the Galaxy at Stanford Stadium, and then of course they have the Levi Stadium game. That one was actually attended even better as well. It got close to 50,000 fans, but a big part of that is because, one, they were playing against LAFC, and they were playing against Sung him in LAFC team. A lot of Korean fans was definitely there to watch that game as well. So they get a big boost in terms of that, and they also get the Messi boost as well. They had that sold out crowd at PayPal Park when the Messi circus came through. So yeah, when it comes to the average attendance, even though on paper it looks pretty good, when you look at games that, if you exclude those two games that's not at PayPal Park, and even the game where they play against Inter Miami, the attendance are still not good for the Quakes, and I'm not surprised that is the case. The attendance have never been good in these last couple of years, mainly because we know who is still in charge of this team, and unless that certain guy is still in charge of this team, and the team continue to suck like they have been for a decade now, yeah, it's gonna be hard to trying to draw fans to attend games, even though Quakes tickets are actually among the some of the cheapest in the league. Like, with all these other teams have jacked up the prices, a lot of San Jose Earthquakes tickets are really cheap to get. But even with cheap tickets, when the team is not doing well, or you have an owner that is among the most hated owner not only in MLS but in sports in general, yeah, attendance is going to be bad. Now, MVP of this team, it's going to be Christian Espinoza. It's been that case for the last couple of years. Disappointment, I got to go with Daniel. I mean, this was a really disappointing season for Daniel, and a huge regression for him as well. He was considered to be one of the best goalkeeper in the league, and while he has definitely battled with some injury issue, man, this year he took a huge regression. And I'm not saying that he was really bad throughout the entire year. One of the disappointment about Daniel this season is that he's been kind of a mystery box this season. There's times where Daniel has looked like the Daniel of the old, just kind of bailing out this team with incredible save, and then there's times where he give up softy goals that I usually never see him give up during his time with the Quakes. So add to the fact that, he's been very inconsistent, and the fact that the Quakes backline is absolutely god awful. I mean, you wonder why they conceded 60 plus goals this season again. Once again. Young player to watch. I'm gonna go with Bo LaRue, but shout out to definitely to Nick Fernandez, a guy that, I have watched a couple of times when he was with the Town FC, the MLS Next Pro team that San Jose Earthquakes has, and he's definitely a standout player and a guy that could definitely be the next Bo LaRue as well. One thing about Bruce Arena team is the fact that he definitely believed in the youth, and he definitely is not afraid in terms of calling up guys from MLS Next Pro. We saw it with Bolaroo, just kind of a guy that did well with the Town FC as well, but we never would have thought he would be this level, being one of the most underrated number eight in the league, and a guy that is just going to continue to be better as long as he doesn't have that sophomore slump kind of season. So yeah, I'm very excited to see that. And the same case with Nick Fernandez, and maybe even guys like Nico Jacaris as well, because there's something tells me that maybe Jacaris might get a much bigger role in this team, especially as we'll talk about in a bit. That there is a certain dilemma that this team has to face, and an unthinkable thing that has happened to this team when they made the end of season roster. So what went right for this team? Well, when it comes to watchability, this team was pretty much among the top. I think you could even argue this team was even more fun to watch again than Inter Miami. And I know that's maybe me just being kind of biased as a Quakes fan, but you look at all the games that the Quakes have played. There's not really any games you can say that this team is not fun to watch. There's a very rare. It's very rare that you see that whenever you tune into a Quakes game that there's no shenanigans or no crazy action that is gonna happen. This team really kind of reminds me a little bit of the Almeida team from a couple of years, where Almeida teams were among the most entertaining team to watch because the man marking system was just something that we usually we never see in the league, and there's a reason why we don't see it nowadays either because it created a lot of volatile kind of stuff, just like what we saw this year as well. So yeah, again, if you want to watch an entertaining soccer game, just tune into a San Jose Earthquake game. You know it's going to be entertaining to watch. And part of the entertainment, besides the fact that the Quakes give up a lot of goals, is the attack is absolutely lethal. I mean, the first half of the season was definitely a big part of it, despite the fact that they did had some shortcoming that we'll definitely get to. But yeah, the lethal attack led by Joseph Martinez, Chicho Rongo, and Christian Espinoza. I mean that is a very scary attack. There's a reason why in the beginning of the season I say that this was probably one of the most underrated attack and one of the scariest free that you just simply don't want to face against every single game. So what went wrong for this team? So yeah, the defense and goalkeeping was not great. The defense I definitely highlight as continue to be bad. And remember how I talked about the shortcoming with the attack? It's the finishing. The finishing was absolutely god awful with this team in most games, and how many times I've just kind of completely pulled my hair out in terms of seeing this team missing some easy chances that they should finish. But I think the other thing that went wrong with this team is I know they have some tough losses near the end of the season. I would also say that with how they play near the end of the season, they didn't really have a Colorado Rapids kind of collapse like what we see with the Rapids having a bit of a collapse late in the season with one win in 7 games that kind of doomed their playoff hope. But 2 wins in 13 games in the middle of the season. I mean, the summer run for this team, man, you talk about dog's day of summer. The Quakes definitely had that in the middle of the season. Just 2 wins in 13 games between May 28th and August 8th. They had a stretch where they win, I think, 9 games without a win as well. You're not going to make it the playoffs if you have that kind of stretch. In fact, very few teams have that kind of stretch and have that kind of run for almost half of the season, still able to make it to the playoffs as well. So yeah, that stretch really doomed this team, and it's not like this team got off to an incredible start either. I mean, they were okay in terms of where they were in the standings. In fact, I think okay maybe is a little bit underselling. They were actually doing pretty well to begin the season, but not well enough. Where 2 wins in 13 games, and the fact that they kind of finished a little pedestrian near the end of the season as well, and lose games that they desperately needed to win. Yeah, that's kind of the reason why they miss out on the playoffs this season, I've even mentioned the fact that they miss out on the playoffs on the tiebreaker as well. They was actually tied with RSL in terms of the points total, so that saying that hurts even more because again there were so many games this season I could say that the Quakes could have earned themselves an extra point that kind of come back to haunt them this year, and big part of it is what I said about these two, the shortcoming of the attack in terms of finishing and the defense just blowing games left, right, and center. Now, moving forward for the San Jose Earthquakes, we got to talk about the Christian Espinoza situation. So I've been holding to talk about this for a while, but this is kind of the big story with this team, and just kind of the shocking story of the fact that the Quakes decided to not re-sign Christian Espinoza. Now, from what I heard, originally they were going to offer for him a contract. I'm not sure if the contract that was offered from him wasn't big enough. But what's kind of interesting is that on the day when they decided to offer him a contract, just 2 days later, Chris Leach got fired. So something must be up when it comes to that offer. The fact that just 2 days later, it got Chris Leach fired. And speaking of Chris Leach, as much as I do like Chris Leach. I actually met him in person a couple of time in real life as well. He hasn't really done that much as the GM of this team, and part of it is kind of his fault, and part of it isn't because this ownership is among the cheapest ownership in the league. But also, the thing about Chris Leach that kind of eventually got him end up on the chopping block is the fact that he didn't see eye to eye with Bruce Arena. It feels like there was a bit of a power struggle from what I heard between him and Bruce Arena. And knowing Bruce really wants unlimited power, I mean, it was kind of no surprise that eventually Chris Leach was let go. But it's kind of interesting as we saw the Christian Espinoza situation where literally 2 days after the original offer and that kind of cost Chris Lee's job. I wonder whether or not if they actually lowball him, which I feel like that would be the most San Jose Earthquakes thing to do to lowball one of their star player. And now, it's been really radio silence when it comes to the Christian Espinoza situation. I mean, I know that there are some circle that say that he's definitely not going to be re-signed with the Quakes. It's also important to note that I don't think the Quakes have released a thank you kind of video or even a thank you tweet about Christian Espinoza and his time with the San Jose Earthquakes. So when that happened, there is a case that he could still resign with this team. We could still see a Paul Frothrock situation where, for this whole off season, Seattle has had that issue with Paul Frothrock decide not to resign with the team, but now all of a sudden there's been reports saying that looks like they are going to indeed resign him to a new contract extension. I'm hoping this is going to be the same case with Christian Espinoza because, like I said, it's been very radio silence when it comes to his situation, and I really hope that the Quakes do decided to resign him because it's absolutely unthinkable if they decide to let go of really the heart and soul of this team, and especially right now I'm not surprised there's going to be a lot of suitor in MLS to try to get him. I mean, when it comes to the top free agency target, he's literally number one on that list. The ability that has that he can show with any of these good teams that is trying to chase for his signature. Yeah, I'm not surprised that there's a lot of teams that is chasing for, but the Quakes can definitely silence that if they can actually decide it to finally be competent for once, which is not very often, and decided to sign Christian Espinoza to a new contract extension. Speaking of Bruce Arena getting unlimited power, so again, after the firing of Chris Leach, it feels like Bruce Arena won that power struggle, and now he has full control of this team. Not only coaching this team, but he has the decision to change the team. I'm also interested to see whether or not if they're going to go with a little bit of an overhaul this year. I mean, I know some people say that when you look at this team, maybe Bruce Arena is going to run it back a little bit, but I think when you look at this team, while the attack is definitely good, the defense absolutely needs an overhaul, and I wonder whether or not if Bruce is going to be aggressive, just like what we saw last offseason. Last offseason, Bruce was very aggressive when it comes to his signing. This year, not so much, and they haven't really been that aggressive ever since what we saw last offseason as well. So it will be very interesting to see whether if Bruce can use that unlimited power to really reshape this team and get this team back finally back to the playoff contention. And so it's also important to note that when Bruce Arena took charge of New England a couple of years ago, in the first year, New England they did make it to the playoffs via the playing game and went all the way to the Eastern Conference final. But as I said, they finished in eighth place, very similar to how the Quakes finish around the spot that they did. And the very next year, that team won the Supporters Shield. And I'm not saying the San Jose Earthquakes will be a Supporters Shield winner next year, but I do trust the fact that Bruce Arena has that experience to get the team much better in his second season. And again, those moves that they need to make and to overhaul the team is going to be a must this off season in order to get this team much better than what they were this year. And then of course, the reshaped backline that I've been talking about, I've been praying that this team decided to do. Well, let's also talk about the goalkeeping situation. So, as I mentioned, Daniel, what a disappointment it was last season of how he performed. And now we'll see whether or not if this year he can bounce back. I'm assuming he's going to bounce back this year because, it is kind of his contract year as well. His contract does go up in 2026. And usually we see when players play in their contract year, they tends to be much better. So I'm assuming Daniel will be a little bit better, but then it does also create that dilemma, the fact that do they keep Daniel and maybe sign him to a new contract extension because he played well, or the fact that they feel like Daniel is not going to do well or doesn't do well enough, the fact that maybe they're already in the market of a new goalkeeper. It's also important to know that Daniel is not that young. He's in his mid 30s as well. He's kind of near that time where usually goalkeepers are kind of near almost near the twilight of their career. I know goalkeepers tends to have a much longer life shelf in the playing career compared to outfield player, but still, he is definitely getting up to that age in terms of being at the peak of his powers. So yeah, a new goalkeeper could be coming for this team as soon as next season or even this off season as well. And then, of course, the last thing, as always, when it comes to talk about the San Jose Earthquakes, I mean, you notice how I haven't mentioned John Fisher's name very often. There's a reason why I haven't mentioned his name. We know he's the elephant of the room, and the reason why this team is being hold back for a very long time. So if he can maybe finally sell this team, that would be appreciated. I mean, we have heard that he was going to sell this team, but the fact that there's been a lot of radio silence when it comes to that situation, and the fact that I'm worried this is going to be similar to what we saw with the Minnesota Twins a couple of years, or even the Los Angeles Angels, where their owners saying that they were going to sell the team, and then later on they say, "Psych, we're not going to sell the team anymore." I'm worried this is going to be the same case with John Fisher, because what if he does do that? Pull a fast one. And when it comes to selling the team, it hasn't been easy even in this league as well. We saw the Vancouver Whitecaps; they have announced that they want to sell the team for a long time. It still hasn't really quite happened. And I have no doubt that, with the Quakes, they're not going to be in the same situation as what the Whitecaps is. As much as I know some Quakes fans are a little worried that this team might be relocated for the second time in the franchise history, I think the league would be absolutely stupid to relocate this team, especially to relocate the sixth biggest sports market in this country. I mean, that would be unthinkable. I mean, what we saw in the first time when they were relocated to Houston, that was, kind of unfortunate situation, but also with the stadium issue as well. I would be shocked if the Quakes are going to end up in the potential same situation the Whitecaps unfortunately might find himself in. And the big thing that the Quakes have when it comes to not being potentially relocated compared to the Whitecaps, the Quakes have a stadium. Even though I know PayPal Park isn't is started to kind of slip down in terms of the rankings compared to some of the newer MLS stadium. It's still a very good soccer specific stadium, and like I said, the league would be super stupid if they decided that they're gonna relocate this team for the second time in franchise history. But there you have it. That is pretty much it. Looking at the San Jose Earthquakes in the Moving Forward series episode. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of this video. And again, I know this is a longer Moving Forward series episode than usual, but that's what happened when I get to talk about one of my team. I definitely have much more insight when I look at this team compared to other MLS team that is. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you're a Quakes fan like myself, what do you think is the MVP, disappointment, young player to watch, what went right, what went wrong, and most importantly, moving forward, how is this team going to look heading into next season? But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.